Hi, my name is Tom and welcome to the Red Barn. In today's video I'm going to cover the design and the build of this dust collector filter box. Now I call this a three-stage filter box and you'll find out why as the video goes on, and I'll explain it at the end. But it is a very effective solution to anybody that has modified their Harbor Freight dust collector to the cyclonic model, which a lot of people do. I feel like it makes it more efficient, and I think that this filter box makes it even better for the quality of the air inside the shop. So stay tuned, watch the video, and see how it was made. Okay, so first thing I had to do was remove this 220 circuit that was blocking the output of my dust collector. It was fairly easy and I had extras in the shop, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Next, you'll see me preparing the saw. I had to get that riving knife back in there, and it's a little difficult on this saw. For some reason, the lever is hard to put in the installed position. So I had to put some things down on paper just to make sure I didn't make any mistakes and make sure all my cuts were lined up properly. Once I did that, I measured out for the rear wall of the box, cut it out, and I just temporarily installed it with a couple of nails just to hold it in place so I could then screw it into location. I had to use that piece of wood just to make sure the offset of the outer frame would fit between the box and the dust collector. So inside the box I created a lip that went around that actually would retain my filters. And I just did that by adding another layer of plywood on the inside and about 2 inches from the edge so I could fit 2 filters on each side of the box. Here I am adding the second piece, just extending it down to where the upper portion of the filter comes to an end. So here you're gonna see me just rough cutting right now my plywood, setting up my saw to cut strips in order to build the sides of this box. I used pocket hole joinery to make the sides, and as you will see here, this is just the bottom piece of one side, cutting it to length, cutting all of the rails and stiles to length, whatever you want to call it, just the frame pieces. Some more of the longer frame pieces here, trying to get the best looking side facing up. Now I missed footage of actually putting together the side piece, but that is what the finished side piece looks like with the opening for the filters, and I was just trimming it there just to make sure it fits the exact height that I have laid out, using nails right now to temporarily hold it in place while I can then pre-drill and screw it in from the side. Kind of an awkward location to put it, and so I was struggling. Right there is the baffle plate that I was talking about. I'm just marking and measuring where it's going to go, make sure everything's square, trimming it to size, again adding the step in there that will help retain the furnace filter and the pre-filter. Here you see me setting up my hole cutter for my drill press. I believe the holes I cut in there were 2.5 inch. Laying out the lines for the hole cutter, bring it over the drill press. I had to drill through so I could locate the hole on the other side, just because this material was way too thick to get in one pass. So there I go. I flip them over to finish the cut so I don't have any tear out. Here it is. I'm setting it up in my Craig jig and drilling in some pocket holes so I can install it. Since this won't be bearing any weight, pocket holes is a great way to quickly put together this project. So here's footage of me actually installing this. I had to make sure I had it all level and that the spacing was even all the way around. Just test fitting my filter, make sure I got all my measurements correct before I install the second side there. So here I am, I'm just test fitting, and looks like I have already pre-cut, so I was just doing a dry fit, and right before I decided to commit it there, and obviously this is the top of the box. Just kind of help square things up and keep the sides straight, because those thin strips of plywood did want to bow just a little bit. Just kind of testing how strong it is, yanking on it really hard. You can see it's pretty solid already. Maybe a little side to side movement, but back to forth, it's committed to that wall very firmly. So in this footage I'm putting together the frames that will hold my pre-filter material. The idea is to have a pre-filter that gets the majority of the dust on it, and it would be a washable filter, so I'd be able to clean this one over and over and over again, and then the more expensive furnace filters would last longer because most of the fine dust would be caught by this. And so I just did some pretty simple pocket joinery, and then I used the bag that came with my Harbor Freight dust collector. It's a 5 micron filter bag, and I just cut out the pieces of material that I needed and stapled it to the frame, and there you go. You just have yourself a nice little 5 micron pre-filter. Plenty of material for 2 frames. Then I use this hardware cloth here. I had to straighten it out, cut it all out. And I use that on the outside of the filters to kind of just help maintain the integrity of the filter. It might have been overkill, but it looks nice. Maybe if I'm swinging some wood around, it'll help protect the filters too if I accidentally poke it. So you see me adding it and then test fitting the filters. And here's the other side. I'm adding that side and test fitting those filters too to make sure everything fits, and it was nice and tight. Worked good. Here I am preparing the face of the opening and adding some memory foam type weather stripping to help keep the dust out. You see the latches that I added there, and this is the final assembly. I made this door just out of a single piece of plywood. Okay, it's time to take a closer look at this filter box. I built this box about 2 months ago, That's when I filmed the footage of me building it. And so it's has about 2 months of moderate buildup from regular work. It's kind of the off season for what I build, but all the same, it's a pretty decent amount. So as you can see, I got sawdust all over in here. It's the really, really fine stuff. The gaskets do a pretty good job at holding back the dust. In my previous, or in the introduction to this video, I had mentioned that I consider this a 3-stage dust collection filter box. And let me explain what I mean by that. If you look, the box is separated into 2 sections. This is the area I call the baffle area, and then this is the filter area. This is a baffle plate that has 2 holes inside that are drilled through it, and the purpose of this area is just to slow the velocity of the air down. So when my dust collector ejects the air and the dust mixed with the air, hopefully it creates enough turbulence inside here to slow it down, and then it comes through these 2 holes, and then it passes through the filter area. Now there's 2 filters. The first is a 5 micron filter material that just came with the Harbor Freight dust collector. As you can see, this side is perfectly clean, but if I turn it around, it is full of dust. And now here's the interesting thing. This is the 3rd stage of the filtration, which is the final stage. The furnace filter that you can buy at any department store. If you take a good look, and I know my lighting isn't the best still, but there's no, the presence of dust is non-detectable over the majority of this filter. The reason I have some along here is just because it doesn't make a good seal against the door, so it's something that I'm going to have to work on. Some of the dust is kind of creeping around. If I use this as an example, it comes up and it creeps around the side and gets in between this layer and this layer. But I'd have to say that these 5 micron filter bags that come with the stock dust collectors do a really good job at blocking most, if not all, of the fine dust. So there you have it. It's my 3-stage dust collector filter box. I hope that this build has given you some inspiration to build your own. I don't necessarily expect you to use my design, but if you are interested in using my design, whether it is for reference or if you'd like to copy it outright, I don't mind, and I will provide a link to a SketchUp file that has all the dimensions and everything drawn up on it. So if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and I know that I'm going to be using this and it'll be improving the quality of my shop air for years to come. And if anything happens where it wears out or something funny happens, I will make sure to make an update video. But until then, enjoy yourselves, get out woodworking, and I'll see you next time.